Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, I have an exciting guest for us to listen to, Richard Lederer. He has called in before. He's calling in from, of course, from California, San Diego, and he is my hero because he's the best writer. He is a wordsmith. He's so many things, and he's such a nice guy. And so he's been writing such special columns for us. And he's going to talk about something that I think everyone's going to enjoy. When you pick up your May issue, you'll see that he wrote the column on Teachers Change Lives. So hi, Richard. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, and thank you so much for all that blush here. But at any rate, how wonderful that from San Diego or California to Florida, we can speak. And, I have a column in various areas, and I've never shared on this lovely show before some of the letters I get. And I want to share two, and I hope there's time for a third.
Okay, let's try.
But I will tell you a little bit of, I'll call it a milestone and not a millstone. Later this month, that is May of course, 2019, I'll be returning to Haverford College for my 60th reunion.
Oh, my heavens.
And as the joke goes, I know my classmates are going to be so old they won't even recognize me.
You're so bad.
But I embrace it, and at Haverford College, ANITA, our motto is, we haven't heard of you either. And the interesting thing is, and I don't know how widespread this is the last reunion we'll have, and all of us in our fairly early 80s, the last reunion where the college supports, and they do a wonderful job, the logistics and this and that, but this is the last time they do it. I think they figure after this there won't be enough of us left, and if they're going to get money out of us, it's already happened. So,
that's bad.
But interesting that this is it. They encourage us to come back, but no of all that infrastructure. So I am a lifetime member of San Diego Writers and Editors, and that's a group here that's going to be celebrating its 40th anniversary, and I believe it is our oldest group existing of writers in San Diego. So I asked them to send me relatively brief statements on why they write and why they love to write. So I'm going to read, this will be my first of the letters this morning, from Caroline McCullough of Claremont in San Diego. Actually, a woman who has co-written two books with me, two of my history books. So here we go, ANITA. And I'm just picking out these. I know you're really turned on by these statements from people.
Right.
And with many of them, I say, gosh, I wish I could write that well. But at any rate, why do I love to write? It's simple. Most of the time, I feel good. When I'm writing, I feel better. Most of life is out of my control. My kids do what they want. The economy does what it wants. Politics are crazy. And when I'm writing, all that goes away. I create worlds, and I'm in control. It's a lovely feeling. I'm not saying that everything is happy, happy, happy in the worlds I create, but I know that my readers know that ultimately justice will prevail, love will conquer, and characters will find satisfying ways to continue their lives. What a wonderful place to be, and it's all right there in my keyboard. That's not the only way I feel better. I had some major surgery a few years back. I was surprised to find that when I was writing, all the pain from the surgery went away. I wasn't that hurting person sitting at a keyboard. I was facing a polar bear in Quebec, or singing Eskimo songs in Alaska, or riding a horse across a barranca in Baja California. No pain in any of those places. Why wouldn't I write? There's no downside. Isn't that marvelous?
Oh, it is. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, how old is this person about?
This person is 78 and about to undergo knee replacement, and I'm going to go stay with her for a lot of that time. I mean, she'll need some help. And she is a writing coach, loves to share it with others, and you can see very spare, direct sentences, and incredible.
Amazing.
So the second, because I'd love to have room for the third, although we'll see what happens. But the second is this. I wrote, my article on teachers, as you can guess, also appeared in my weekly column in San Diego, the San Diego Union Tribune. And again, I asked people to write me about teachers in their lives. And I will read what I think is the best of them. I received at least 20. And this is from Howard Estes of Point Loma. And I hope it'll resonate. It's a little bit longer than the other letter. Dear Richard Lederer, in the fall of 1963, newly teenaged males, Tom, Al, and I, sat next to each other in the back row of a ninth grade honors English social studies class taught by a young teacher, Claire Tremaine. We were, truth be told, mildly obnoxious, as shown when Al nicknamed her Flash, and it stuck. Later in the year, Miss Tremaine approached us and placed an Irish curse upon our head, possibly in jest. And the curse is, "You will all grow up to be English teachers, and you will each have students just like you are now." She was spot on. Tom taught English and counseled in the South Bay for over 35 years. Al became a lawyer before transitioning to his true calling in the classroom, where he also taught for nearly 30 years, and I taught English at Helix I in the same classroom, I might add, for 36 of my 38-year teaching career. Dr. Tremaine encouraged us to think outside the curriculum box, to be creative, to engage young minds in the world of what if. I've been retired for 10 years now, but I still get together with Claire Tremaine and a few other like-minded crazy thinkers to discuss books, poems, travel, and the world at large over a glass of wine. And I remain in contact with more than 50 former students, now teachers, lawyers, small business owners, and the like, who I hope got some sort of spark from their time with me. Just, I thought, a great statement, and how the legacy continues. And as I said in the article,
That's just great. I can't get over it.
Yeah.
These people, and they must be such interesting people. I mean, you're just writing one little thing, but you all get together often?
Well, they do. I mean, because, again, this is Howard Estes, but apparently they do. Oh, I get together with a writers group for lunch just about every Monday. Of course, with poker, you're naturally together around the table. I just played last night, and we'll play tonight. And the older you get, the more your friends become important. Then, of course, some of your family members go on to whatever it is, but they pass on. The Irish Blessing, ANITA, I collect them. There are good ships and there are wood ships, and the ships that sail the sea. But the best ships are friendships, may they always be.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yes, that is so good.
And tennis and pickleball, I play both now, by their nature, are social. And, of course, poker is definitely, you're sitting around a small table trying to pick each other's pockets. And then the long-distance friendships, such as what you and I have, and I treasure them all.
Right, I know you do.
And again, because I'm not sure I got to but Henry Adams wrote A Teacher Affects Eternity. No one knows where his influence stops. Of course, it's more often her influence now, about 3-to-1 in education for women, and that gap is growing. Fortunately, I was a male teacher for all those years, as you know. But what a thrill for me from my column, whether it be with you or elsewhere, and in come these great letters. So what I'm wondering now is, because this is longer, if we would have time for Gertrude King Ranstrom's letter.
Oh, absolutely. We still have time. Go ahead.
Oh, my God, you're great. Okay, let me just get to the text. So
Okay.
here's the backstory. As you know, I began writing my column in Concord, New Hampshire, and in the Concord Monitor and other papers, and at one point I wrote about the history of the library in America, and I asked people, readers, if they would, to send me their why libraries were important to them. And in came this letter, frankly the best I have ever received, from one Gertrude King Ranstrom of Nashua, New Hampshire, in the south of the state. And I started reading it, burst into tears. I may break up a little bit here, because it was the best letter I've ever received from a reader. And the reason it's come up recently is that in a little earlier this year, I received a letter from her grandson saying, Dr. Lederer, I just want you to know my grandmother, Gertrude Ranstrom, passed away at the age of 104 and 1 day. And she always said the proudest moments in her life is when her letter to you about libraries appeared in your column, Dr. Lederer, and ultimately in your book, The Gift of Age. And I Googled her because she is so good. I'm saying, has she been publishing? As far as I can tell, Gertrude has never published anything else that I know of, at least on a mass scale. So here is her letter to me. I want you to hear the music of this, and you'll see why I adore it. It's longer than the others. Dear Mr. Lederer, your article about libraries whisked me back in time and place to the 1920s and the little village of Haydenville, Massachusetts, where I grew up. There is just music in a sentence like that. Its tiny library, which is still in use, was our only avenue of adventure to the wonders of the outside world, and my brothers and I, along with our friends, made good use of it. And then it goes on to describe the building, and I'm going to move down a couple of paragraphs. Anita, on summer evenings, we lingered outside to talk, but in winter, it was nice to push into the room and stand over the one-pipe register and allow the heat to blow up around us. There were no rules about talking except when we became too boisterous, so the boys jostled and joked in one nook while we girls squeezed into another to whisper and giggle. So this was a library open only one day a week. And one of my favorite sentences in here, and we're talking now in the 1920s because Gertrude was born in 1915. Listen to this. Mother made us wash up and comb our hair so we would look respectable and be clean enough to inspect books without leaving fingerprints. Talk about a bygone day. So at any rate, now here's where it really kicks in. As you know, of course, from the, I think it was your April issue, in our little library was born my love of history, which became my major in college. From the colonial twins, the Puritan twins, and the twins of the American Revolution, through the red badge of courage and with malice toward none, I read and am still reading every historical novel available. And then a slight skip. While my brothers read the Bobbsey twins, Tom Swift and Huck Finn, I read Pollyanna, Bambi, and The Yearling. As we grew older, my older brother turned to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and almost wore out Lindbergh's We, that's capital W-E. Listen, look at this image. I can still picture the blue binding of the book with a silver airplane etched on the cover, and my brother slouched in a big easy chair with his leg dangling over its arm. Both socks wrinkled around his ankles, showing bare legs below the cuffs of his knicker pants, and his hand rumpled his hair as he soared high over the earth with his hero. Now the last two paragraphs, love. As he traveled the skies and seas, I traversed America with Willa Cather, learned to love animals through Albert Payson Terhune stories, found goodness in life with A.J. Cronin, and whisked away on the whimsy of Elizabeth Goudge. That's one of the greatest sentences I've ever received. It was a wonderful experience, and because of it, I would add another beatitude to the ones we learned back in our Sunday school days. Blessed are they who can read and enjoy a good book, for theirs is the world and its kingdoms. I firmly believe, I know this is called being human, Anita.
Right.
I firmly believe that children are influenced by what they read, and that the books we took home from the library impressed upon us what Mother and Dad tried to teach, that good character and high moral values are to be desired above all other attributes. We heard it, we read it, and so we lived it. There is no greater endowment that can be given to a child than an ideal and a hero, and our little library did just that for us.
Hard to believe. You know, it's funny. Now with the internet and all, the libraries are so different than I don't think I ever told you this, but when I went to school, high school, I was in the club, the library assistants club, and the library was one of my special places besides the band. So this made I hadn't thought about this until you started with the whole library article.
It's difficult to read War and Peace on a screen, meaning
Right.
the electronic book doesn't work well on a small screen, and of course attention span is lessened because the kids are just used to zipping from one thing to another. And then, of course, just to get a little dark, we worry about the influence. I am sure you heard about the synagogue shooting here in Poway.
Yes.
At the Chabad. Well, first of all, that neighborhood abuts where I live in Scripps Ranch. We're neighbors. And that was a 19-year-old boy, the oldest of, I think, 5 or more, children in the family. Strong church-going family, and inculcating those values. And this kid gets caught up, in the hate areas of the dark web, and ends up and could have killed a lot more people if his gun hadn't jammed. But just to get a little dark after all the lightness and brightness we've been talking about, Anita.
It's really an amazing. I didn't know how close you were when I saw that, and then it's hard even to believe. I met the father the other day of one of the students who they live in Parkland, and he was telling me. He said, and the one thing that they've tried to do here, and I don't agree with it, and they don't, is to have the teachers able to have guns, and they should not be doing that. I don't think it's a very bad idea.
Well, my own view is for people who say guns don't kill people, I say, yeah, but bullets do. And guess where bullets come from? We're the only nation that's got this, and it's almost normal. I mean, even since the Chabad in Poway, there have been, I think, 3 school shootings since then, and that was pretty, the college one and the Colorado one just recently, and all of of that, but you just see in these letters the triumph of the human spirit.
Yes.
And thank you for letting me read the three, because, I mean, I know you're such a humanist, and of course you love people. That's why you have all this energy at this stage in your life, and all of that. But so many of us do.
I know.
Anita, I mean, we have our president is the oldest to have entered the Oval Office. He superseded Ronald Reagan in that respect by 8 months. And if either Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, if they happen to become president, one of them, they will supersede Donald Trump. And then, as you probably know, in terms of long life, that was Reagan, but very quickly thereafter, Reagan was, I think, 93 and 4 months, superseded by Gerald Ford, and then superseded by George H.W. Bush, who very recently superseded by Jimmy Carter. And that's going to happen again and again.
Yes.
Because we live longer and wonderfully, not just extra years of decrepitude, but extra years of vigor. You know, so
Yes.
many of the readers, and Anita Finley is the, shall we say, platonic archetype of that.
Thank you. It's interesting that I attend a lot of meetings now with insurance people, or, you know, people in their probably 40s, 50s, even 60s, and they've just discovered about what's happening to seniors, and they're saying, oh, my God, you know, they're going to live to be 80 and 85, and and I sit there, and, of course, you and I have been doing this for a long time, and it gets boring for me to say, oh, well, I told you so, and I just don't do anything. I don't even comment on it, because we knew this was not something new for us.
Absolutely. The modern medicine, Anita, the important part of it, it is so modern, and what, you know, it has done for longevity is just amazing. So we are living an extra life almost beyond our forebears for the most part. In San Diego, by 2030, we are expecting to have 1 million residents 65 or over, 1 million by 2030. And I'll be one of them at that point, because I plan to still be here. Anita, I expect to live forever, and so far, so good. It's working.
Well, you will live forever in your books. You see, that's the nice thing that you have. You have done something that so many people want to write, and they're talented, but they never get around to it. But boy, you've spent your whole career not only speaking but writing, and those books will stay on. You know, the people will read them to their kids. They'll read them later on. It's once it's in print that way, that's really great.
And they will experience and share my thoughts and emotions when I sat down at the keyboard a year ago, 10 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. Also the same with, of course, Anita Finley's books. And what I would say to those other folks is, we live in an age in which anybody can publish. It's called self-publishing.
Yep.
It's called create space.
Mm-hmm.
You can format it yourself. And folks out there, your children might not give a darn about your life being, you know, preserved in print, but I'll bet your grandchildren do. And making a tape, an interview with you about the good old days, or getting it in print, at least, maybe not as a book in the hand, or maybe it is a book in the hand. You can do it, and you will find a group of fellow memoirists, and you can join them and be part of that community.
It sounds like you have a lot of writers groups there in your area.
Yes, we do, because it is a community, and, you know, you are going to obviously think that your text is the greatest thing since sliced bread, because you can't put in all that time unless you believe that the world is just crying out for your life story or, you know, or your novel.
Right.
But then in a critique group through other eyes. They're reading, you're reading aloud, and they're critiquing, and you go, wow, that's right, I didn't see that. And also you're your own worst proofreader, because you're going to provide what's called closure, where you think you see what it is, but it isn't. But somebody else sees that it isn't. So, yeah, we have a lot of groups. I go to the luncheon and so on, and I always have an editor I work with, and it is just the greatest writing.
Yep. No, you really have quite a career there, and you play tennis, but you said Wednesday your tennis is changed. It's not doing that.
In the morning,
Yeah,
right. In part because I'm transitioning to pickleball, the fastest growing sport in America. And it's not that I can't run around a tennis court, but I have a torn rotator cuff in my left shoulder. I'm right-handed, but it affects my toss for the serve. And again, as the sand in the hourglass is running out, have I mentioned on the show before the Yale study about tennis and longevity?
No, you haven't, but we've just run out of time.
Okay, so remember that
for next time. Yes,
and
next
guess
time.
what? Tennis can add 9 years to your life. I'll
Good.
just say that.
Okay, that's good. And thank you so much, and be well, and we'll talk again. And just keep sending me those great articles.
Sure will.
All right, thank you.